CBT News, your number one resource for auto industry news and content.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining me. Another edition of CBT Now right here at CBT News. The Q1 Cox Automotive Dealer Sentiment Index is out, giving us a pulse on how dealers are feeling right now and what they expect in the months ahead. Here now is Erin Keating, executive analyst at Cox Automotive. You'd seen her here before on CBT News. So Erin, thank you so much for joining us on the show once again.
Of course. Great to be here, Jim. Good to see you.
Sure. So let's jump right in here. So if you can, refresh our audience a little bit as to what the Cox Automotive Dealer Sentiment Index is all about.
Sure. This is a survey that we actually send out quarterly. We've been doing it since 2017, and it's really trying to get a pulse on what are the dealers feeling about the market, about their sales, inventory, fixed operations, the climate, everything. And we fielded this last one to just under 1,000 dealers, about half franchise, half independent.
Okay.
And it's important to note the dates. We fielded it January 28th to February 10th. So we got the first 8 days of the Trump administration. We got the little, hey, here's going to be 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Just kidding. We're going to reverse that for a minute. So a couple different dynamics that have been happening in the market.
We should call it the Trump just kidding administration.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I don't really mean that. But by all means, hold your emails to me on that one. So
yes.
Sometimes I get emails that say, you don't like Trump. And then others will
Right.
say, you support Trump too much. So, nowadays in media, you just can't win, right?
You can't.
You've got to be on one side or the other. But nevertheless, let's dive right in. How would you characterize the overall sentiment of U.S. dealers today in the latest report?
So generally it is really weak across both franchise and independent. We're still below that threshold of 50. 50 is usually where we try to say it's starting to get better. We're
Sure.
at 44 now.
Okay.
It's only 2 points up from where it was last quarter, 2 points up from last year.
Okay.
So kind of weak. Profit index is looking a little bit weak. Costs continue to show that the dealers are feeling that's rising. It's come down a little bit, but it's still on the rising side of things.
Okay. What stood out most for you in the report?
To be honest, and we've talked about this before because there's so much data here and some of it is moving so marginally from, 1 month to the next or 1 quarter to the next that I like to get deep into the verbatims and then also some of the weird data that's in there that maybe not everyone's paying attention to. So I'll tell you the 2 things that stood out to me.
Okay.
One was that the Northeast specifically seem to be faring less well this quarter than others. And it's unusual because I know that we've seen some lag in the Western region over the last couple of sentiment surveys, but the Northeast specifically have been feeling not as great in almost every category. They rated lower than their other counterparts, the South, the Midwest, and the West. So yeah, that was a little bit interesting. And then let's see, the other thing that was interesting to me was the dealers were really kind of staying static on EVs.
Okay.
Not really completely going down, not going up. I know we'll talk about dealers in just EVs in just a minute. And then the last thing was competition. Independents are actually staying relatively on the same path as far as how they view competition when you look at those top 10 things that are holding their business back.
Okay.
Franchise, I noticed, it ranked 7% in 23, quarter 1, 23. It's 16% now. So it's been gradually growing higher and higher. So franchise dealers for sure are feeling like there is some increased competition in the market. Interesting.
Yeah. And, you've got companies like Scout and Rivian that are making huge headlines, and maybe their dealers are feeling a little like, hey, what's going on here? These aren't even franchise companies, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah, no question about it. It's always interesting to look at the factors that dealers say that are holding their business back. In the last 2 reports, political climate was kind of climbing up the list of factors as we headed towards election season. Now that a new administration is in the White House, what factors are dealers most concerned about?
So political climate did, in fact, drop. And we expected that would happen after the election was actually resolved easily and quickly and with a peaceful transfer of power. What we are seeing continue to reign supreme, interest rates. And we're not seeing those ease. And in fact, in the most recent data, we've seen them going up a bit. So that's really stressing both franchised and independent dealers out. Economy. When you look at the verbatims under economy and market conditions, all of those continue to say inflation, as well as consumer confidence and uncertainty. Like those were the 3 words that kept jumping out in every verbatim in caps and everything. So definitely the dealers, even though that they were seeing that things are feeling weak and that they're just on the hesitancy here of the spring bump, they're feeling the pain of inflation and of consumers starting to question what's going on.
Yeah.
And I suspect we'll see that grow more in the next quarter.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but it probably will. Electric vehicles continue to be extremely a hot topic in automotive, particularly now with the concerns that the federal tax credits might be changed or removed altogether. What were the main insights about EV sales and expectations from the Q1 dealer sentiment index?
Yeah, I mean, no question. It was pretty unilateral across both used and new and independent and franchise dealers that the tax credits help a lot and that they move the metal. And that if those go away, that there is some hesitancy around how much they can sustain the level of sales that they have right now. Interestingly enough, independents went up. And so they're seeing that used EV sales are starting to become more prolific throughout their networks, which makes sense. We're going to see more and more used vehicles. Yeah. Used electric vehicles hit the market, and so it makes sense that they're seeing that the market's going up. But it didn't tank. It wasn't very obvious that they said, oh, they're definitely going away tomorrow. It's sort of, as I said before, it sort of stayed steady. Right. But with a minor decline there. But the credits are really important to the dealers.
Yeah. And we've seen an increase in EV sales over the course of the last year,
the
right?
Market's exactly right. The market's telling us that the EVs continue to increase in sales.
Yeah, especially the EV hybrids. I mean, that's
absolutely.
Without a doubt. So looking into the future, what was the market outlook for the next 3 months?
I mean, typically, we see this time of year, they're getting excited about tax refund season, which we know is ahead of the game this year, and higher refunds this year. It's the spring bounce. So for the next 3 months, dealers are thinking, hey, this is when I actually do some of my best work. And it seemed a little bit like it was picking up a little bit more. I would say that, again, we're looking forward to this already on to the next dealer sentiment index, and seeing if that attitude has changed just a bit over the last few weeks while we've seen the stock market go a little bit crazy and inflation numbers be inflated and things like that. So, but our data is consistently showing us that the market is not stumbling yet as far as auto sales. We're still seeing auto sales rise. We're seeing inventory maintain. Wow, so sentiment can be there, but we're not yet seeing the numbers prove out that anything's happening in the wrong direction in vehicle sales.
That's good. I mean, it is amazing to watch retail automotive. It seems to be so resilient, and dealers seem to pivot when they need to and move on. And if it's EVs we're selling EVs. If EVs are not hot, we're selling something else. I mean, they will sell. Right. They'll put people in bicycles if that's the name of the game out there, right?
Exactly right. It really it's true. And at the end of the day, a lot of this is regional, as we always talk about. It's just where they're having weather. Of course, that's going to be a challenge. And weather was actually one of the factors that really increased for both independent and franchise as far as concerning them and holding their business back. So interesting dichotomy of things that they're having to deal with and look at. Yeah.
As we head into the second quarter, what do you see as the main areas dealers will be focused on?
I think it's really going to be making sure that they have the right inventory in stock. I mean, everyone's feeling, I've heard a lot of dealers say, like, I don't know if I should stock up in fear of tariffs coming in and making my inventory too expensive. But at the same time, if the inventory goes, or if the sales demand goes down, I don't want to be stuck with the inventory. So I think they're going to be really focused on how do I think about what's sitting at my lot, and then how do I work with my automaker partners to really set the right incentives and the right sales in the market to make sure the metal keeps moving at a consistent pace. That's what everyone wants: consistency, stability.
That's right. And keep the metal moving, for sure.
Exactly.
Erin Keating, executive analyst for Cox Automotive. Thank you so much for stopping by CBT News and giving us the update. We always look forward to it. So thanks so much. And until next time, stay well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.